You've been waiting all week for that Saturday show. Tune in, see what happened, let your troubles go. Work real hard, now it's time to take it slow. Kick back and relax with that Saturday show.
Hate crimes, guns, racism, bullying, all those things are happening in our local schools. School board leadership missing in action, but the board president, we've discovered, is a member of the NRA, the National Rifle Association. What kind of loyalties to student safety are we going to experience with that kind of individual at the helm? ABQ, community rallies in order to do something about long-standing problems in our public schools. It's got to change. And if it doesn't change now, it never will. More on those stories later. Good morning, Albuquerque. I'm your host, Jim Harvey, and this show is brought to you by the Albuquerque Center for Peace and Justice, your source for advocacy and social justice. We start off our show today in a very different way. We're going to pay tribute to our own Michael Herndon, a bright, shining star in the entertainment community here in Albuquerque. His voice is going to be sorely missed. And in the education arena, Miss Deborah Johns. Deborah Johns founded the Black Student Engineering program here. Deborah left us this week as well. 2 holes in a community that needs bright stars. What can I tell you? It's a rough time. Michael Herndon, I also want you to know, was our first musical rendition on our very first show on January 8th this year. We are going to close today only appropriately with the music of the late, wonderful Michael Herndon. That's where we are. Missing valuable and important people in our community. But the work has got to continue. I've adopted a new mantra. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. And I believe that most sincerely. I believe in freedom, and I believe that because there's so much work to be done, I cannot rest, and you cannot rest. We've got a great show lined up for you today. Very important discussions. And we're going to start our show off with the absolutely marvelous and wonderful Lara Dale. Lara, thank you for coming back to That Saturday Show.
I am always so happy to be on this show.
You know, Lara is one of the founders of this whole effort several years ago. And it's so good, and I know you're glad to see that we're all back and we're doing this work again.
The fight was worth it.
And
totally worth it.
We're not going to let it get away from us this time.
Exactly.
We really aren't.
Yep.
We really
This is
aren't.
exactly what I wanted to have happen.
Yeah. So, Lara, you've got so many campaigns on your plate at this point, and I just wanted you to bring our viewers up to speed on some of the things that are happening.
Well, so I am the founder of something called the Safe Sets Initiative. I am a survivor of really severe onset sexual harassment back in 1989. It was my first speaking part, and they were filming it on the Puya Cliffs in northern New Mexico. It's the middle of nowhere. And they started to up the harassment and pressure on me to the point where I realized they were wanting to put me into a sex scene that was not in my script. And I ended up, it escalated so much over a period of about 3 days that I ended up having to try and escape from the set They barricaded the exit. They sent the entire tech crew after me. It was a nightmare experience. I did manage to escape, and I don't say that lightly because Poye Cliffs is 200 feet off the ground, and if we had veered away from the mesa trying to get off, I probably wouldn't be here to tell you the story. But because of that, I became an activist in terms of remote location safety stuff. And so everybody's like, well, who needs safe sets because, Time's Up and Me Too and, SAG is doing all these things and all these groups. And it's like, I am not knocking any of that. What I'm saying is none of them that I'm talking to are dealing with the terrifying logistics of remote location sets. And the reason I became extremely organized and really pushing for this initiative is because a young woman had contacted me out here, I think it's about 4 years now, who had heard me talk about this on a radio show. And she said something similar had happened to her, only they had kept her past midnight, like pressured her so intensely to do some type of, seemed like explicit sex scene that she had not agreed to contractually. And the problem was, when she tried to call out, her cell phone didn't work.
Oh.
I don't know what happened to her. She wouldn't talk about it. It was clearly a very uncomfortable topic, but it infuriated me, and I realized none of these reforms are addressing the terrifying logistics of remote location shoots. And so, as you can see, that my Safe Sets logo, we just came up with it. We were trying to come up with like a safety sign, something that if we have T-shirts on set, what I would like ultimately is to create a curriculum and a sort of parameter of compliance that we can then introduce, like every film that starts here is going to have a Safe Sets Day, first thing, before they get certified for gun safety or things like that. So one of the interesting things that people don't realize is there's a lot of categories for safety.
Oh, yes.
There's water shoots, which someone could die. Anything someone could die doing is a safety category.
Yeah.
Children is a big safety issue. Scenes with children is a big deal. Scenes with animals is a big deal.
That's right.
Scenes with the elderly. People don't understand, like, when you're talking intimacy coordinators, which is the new frontier of protections for actors, it's someone who choreographs and sort of manages the set to make sure an actor isn't doing anything explicit that they didn't agree to. But intimacy coordinators also do things like bathtub scenes. So if there's a scene where there's an elderly grandmother and she has to show skin because she's in some, care home and she's getting her back scrubbed, that can be really traumatic for an elderly actor.
Sure.
And so intimacy coordinators will actually step in on scenes like that as well. Childbirth scenes can be really traumatic for the actors doing them. Even surgical scenes. So there's a whole lot of places in film that have big holes in them that if you have someone go rogue from the top down, which in my opinion is what happened in Rust, and it's only my opinion because we don't know until the evidence comes back. But what is frustrating is that there was an awful lot of red flags on that. There was a whole lot of people, including the people who walked off the set. And so it's a confluence of events, and what I'm trying to do is ensure that all the holes that are not being addressed in the larger urban centers like New York and LA, which are predominantly urban setting shoots. New Mexico, what's interesting about us is we're this thriving film industry, but at any given point, 2/3 of our productions are remote location shoots with potentially no cell phone access.
That's a problem right there,
and we've talked about this, Jim. We've talked about this idea, and so one of the things actually that you brought up was let's tie this to like a rape crisis center or something like that. You were in on that sort of visionary original discussion. This is back in like 2018 or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so we've been weighing in with a whole bunch of different solutions to ensure that when you're in these really vulnerable situations in the middle of nowhere, and your cell phone fails you or whatever, that there's a whole safety net for you. And so I was just going to play a little clip because KOB did a really nice interview for me that touched on all the talking points. And so rather than over-explain, if we can go to that clip, that would be great.
Let's take a look, Lara.
Thank you so much.
So what happens now to our very booming film industry? Could we see changes at the state level to make our sets, and of course those who work on them, safer? One woman is not waiting on those decisions to be made. She's trying to get ahead of it right now. Julie Frendak spoke to her tonight. Julie, this woman has been in the industry for years in our state, and she's already tackled set safety, but from a very different angle so far.
Yeah, that's right, Tessa. She was actually a victim of sexual harassment on a film set years ago and then became dedicated to making sets safer for everyone. She started an initiative in our state called Safe Sets, but after last week, she's taking a hard look at what that really means and how she can include gun safety, too. Helena Hutchins' death shook Lara Dale to her core.
Those people went so rogue from what the norm is in New Mexico that a lot of the working, really high-level professionals I know don't even know what to say.
Dale's been in the New Mexico film industry for years. Right now, she's a Foley artist, adding everyday human sound effects to film.
New Mexico has one of the best film industries in the country. And what makes me so angry about what happened on that Rust set is that people then start to think, oh, that's how we run our sets. This should not ever have happened. New Mexico doesn't do this way. So how did we lose sight of this group? How did this get past our radar?
Dale plans to focus on answering those questions and expand on the impact she's made on sets for years now. She started Safe Sets in New Mexico in 2017 to tackle sexual harassment and abuse of power on sets. After last week's shooting on the Rust set, though, she's reconsidering her mission.
I need to rethink the parameters of what on-set safety actually is. I need to think about it in terms of just what's the power imbalance dynamic, whether it's in gun safety or whether it's in a sex scene or whether it's in a key grip, being harassed by their boss or whatever that, it's all the same power dynamic.
Dale says the same solutions to fight sexual harassment apply to all dangers on sets, beginning with allies.
If there's 5 witnesses, what allyship says is we all saw this, we agree on the story, we are going to group report.
She also believes rape crisis centers in remote areas across our state can play an important role.
If we just train them a little bit extra how to answer crisis lines for film, we could get those actors into, trauma treatment. We could have the proper channels for reporting. We could have all these things, and that infrastructure is already there.
Dale isn't just putting in the work for those in the industry. She says she's doing it for who they just lost.
I want to take the loss of that person into something really powerful. I want her to absolutely not have died in.
Wow, this is a lot.
It's a lot.
This is a lot, but it is so bloody necessary.
Yeah.
Really, the things that are going on, the fact that the movie industry, the film industry in New Mexico is as huge as it is. And these kinds of incidents are not new. That's the other thing that's pretty frightening. They're not new, and yet there's still this tepid response to what's going on. And I think the ideas that you're putting forth just make good, practical sense.
Well, Jim, the thing that's really hard, because people think the film industry and they think it's like this table, like there's just, Universal's here, and there's no film industry, especially now that the internet has broken everything apart. So the studio system we mean when we say that term doesn't exist anymore. There's some stalwarts hanging in. Mm-hmm. So the film industry is these pieces of various productions doing whatever they do and whatever they were trained as. So Safe Sets is about, we don't really have a normative baseline for what constitutes on-set behavior, particularly for remote locations. And the thing that scares me as a survivor of really severe predation on set is the more we clamp down in urban settings, the more we actually start making it hard for predators to do what they do. And I'm talking obviously sexual harassment, but any kind of predation on set. Mm-hmm. The more we clamp down, the more they're coming out here. And they're going to start setting up So my fear is just if we don't create really sound, stringent policy for the kinds of things that can go rogue, and Rust is an excellent example. I really can't give a better example of how bad it can get when it goes wrong. It's like that's, a person dying is as bad as it gets.
So how the hell do you get live ammunition on a set?
So it's so hard to talk right now because I really don't want to interfere with what appears to be a very sound
Robust investigation.
Yeah, a robust investigation.
Yeah.
And I don't want to impede with anything. There's a lot of speculation, there's a lot of suggestions, but what seems to be increasingly clear, and actually I'm going to bring this up, I went online as a professional who knows a lot of names of really good people that work in our state, and we have phenomenal talent here in all levels, okay? And I realized that that letter that was written that was supposedly from cast and crew, basically saying that things were really good on set, I looked up every single one of those names on IMDb. Most of them have 1 or 2 credits, meaning they don't even have the experience to say that that was a good set. But more to the point, all of those that had 1 or 2 credits, Rust wasn't one of them. So
Amazing.
I am beyond curious as to who signed that letter, what their experience really was, and if in fact they're the people who were brought in last minute that day, and they're signing on saying they think they know that that was a good production, that's misleading the public.
That's pretty frightening.
So I'm trying to see if I can get somebody interested in investigating the fact that it appears to me that there is, at base level, some misrepresentation of the level of experience these people have and whether they were even on set for very long. And secondarily, at its worst, there is flat out fraudulent lying. And I'm not saying that's what they're doing. I'm saying if you go on IMDb and look up those resumes, there's no Rust listed on like more than half of them. So I don't know what's going on with that, but something's very wrong.
So, indies, what's going on in the independent film industry that, and do we see any changes there? I know that, you know, the big theater companies, Paramount and, you know, MGM and 20th Century and all of those, I know what's happening there. But what about independent film companies that come in here? Because I know a lot of them come to New Mexico.
Well, and this is the dialogue that we've been having up in Santa Fe is how do you police, because if the punitive is like you could get sued or whatever, usually the big production companies, they know the lawsuit is prohibitive for them. So they're usually pretty in line with most things. So a good reason for you to mention that is people don't understand that actually Rust is considered an independent film.
Is it really?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's a bunch of just producers from here, there, and everywhere piecing it together. And so it's not a studio project. Okay.
Whoa.
And so the biggest problem when I've talked in Santa Fe over the years about this has been going on since like 2017 is my push on it, has been when things go haywire, it's usually independent films. And so one of the big presses that I'm trying to make with Safe Sets up in Santa Fe is that we're tying this to incentives. So we create a baseline of working behavior that is your standard for gun safety, for nude scenes, for anything. You take a comprehensive sort of test that says, you know, do you have an intimacy coordinator? Do you have a swim instructor? Do you have all these things? And they sign off on it. And if they don't go along with it, guaranteed no incentives. So it's this thing that's evolving because we don't know what the state is going to consider as proper parameters for compliance in those areas. So like if you go on my site, it's safe-sets.com. It's kind of in the works because we don't know yet what the state, how they're going to weigh in. So what I'm working on right now is to go see the governor and actually sit down with her because she did an interesting thing. She drew a line in the sand. And she told the press, if Hollywood can't police itself, we're going to do it.
Very good.
And so I'm saying, well, I got the model you could use.
That's right.
So
That's
the
right.
big thing now is to get an audience with her and present a really cohesive notion of how to fix this, including like mandatory satellite phones, so that if your cell phone doesn't work when you have to
Absolutely.
call out, you've got a way, you know. So there's a lot of interesting logistics to it. But that point about independence, when you talk up in Santa Fe to the film office, a lot of times the problematic productions have been independents. And so that is my fear, is that as Hollywood gets cracked down on more and more and more, the types of rogue directors and production houses that don't like playing by the rules are going to come out here more and more and more and go to more and more remote locations, and we're going to see more and more Rust fiascos. So this has to be acted on really soon.
Yeah, I just don't want to see, you know, the money that comes into the state, you know, with these productions ending up trumping safety.
Exactly.
And so,
Exactly.
so another question I've got for you, because this is such a valuable topic. You know, another question for you is, will the State Office of Film then make certain that all of the local offices of film, like Albuquerque has an office of film, I think Santa Fe has an office of film, will get all of them lined up to make certain that they're all following the same playbook?
And that's the point, is that Safe Sets is going to be working on a standardized template that ideally we're going to sort of test run here in a small population state, and if it works, I'm planning on expanding it. I've got connections in England, I've got connections in Germany and Wales. There's places that also do a lot of remote location shooting. Australia has a lot of them. And there's actually stories that I've heard where Aboriginal talent has been horrifically abused on remote location sets.
Too.
So it's a long-term goal. My vision is actually much further than New Mexico, but the beauty of New Mexico is it's such a small population state, and I know so many people that I can create this little incubator, and if it works right, we can work out all the details, then expand it as far as I can. But particularly to states with remote location issues like Utah and Wyoming and some of these states that are getting on board, but haven't really worked out how dangerous some of these things can be, particularly weapon stuff, particularly Westerns.
Yeah.
Guns really need to be much better regulated in everything. I mean,
We've got a little under 5 minutes left, closer to 4, and I know we've got another clip.
yeah.
Do we want to play that clip and then just
Let's
end
do it
right
Yeah,
there?
and so this is just a partnership I have with a woman, Nina Menkes. She just got this film Brainwashed accepted into Sundance. We are so excited. I finally get to go to a premiere at Sundance. And what it is about the ways in which the male gaze has corrupted film to the point where it has contributed tremendously to rape culture. So I will let her tell you the story, and then we will go on to other things. But thanks,
Lara
everybody,
Dale,
for listening.
thank you so much. We have to come back because this is an ongoing issue.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at this clip.
It's not just script and dialogue. It's not just the characters. What I want to talk about today is shot design. And shot design is the meta message that gets us in our gut and affects our lives on multiple levels.
On the steps of the red carpet stand 82 women, representing the number of female directors whose films have screened in competition here since 1946. Director Nina Menkes argues we need to change cinema itself, adding that in our favourite films, women are objectified and ultimately disempowered.
Male actors and female actors are shot completely differently. The man is the subject, the man has agency, the woman is looked at.
The accessories are even cuter.
When we get a shape like this, it means that this guy is looking at this person over here.
Haven't I seen you somewhere before? Well, it doesn't matter.
Fragmented body parts. Even with a feminist storyline. Pans, you get body pans, horizontal body pans, vertical body pans. Slow-mo is a way to emphasize. And of course, with men, when do you get slow-mo? Action military, right? Men get sort of a more embodied 3D lighting, and women get flat or 2D lighting or fuzzy lighting or some other form of fantasy lighting. Let's check how audio is gendered in this scene with Robert De Niro. And they're sitting way over here on the side of the pool, and Vicky is far away from them, and that's why we don't hear her, right? Or maybe not right, because how come we hear very clearly these two guys who are sitting right next to Vicky?
You were the first person who gave me the language to understand what I was feeling, because just growing up, I grew up on Disney movies, Disney princesses. There was always that, what you just said, this weird feeling where I would see female characters, and it was like a mixture of like, do I want to be them? Do I want to compete with them?
Heterosexual male actors are almost never shot using these techniques. This is a system of shot design that disempowers women and ties into the epidemic of sexual harassment and assault, as well as the employment discrimination that we face. And I call it the bedrock language of rape culture.
Thank you, and welcome to Good News News. I'm your correspondent, Hassanio Lujimi, and I'm Gugu for Good News. The goal of this segment is to inspire and uplift you, the viewer, with nothing but good news. Our two stories come from our favorite friends at somethinggood.com. Our first story is titled, Go Have Fun with Your Dreams. Let's take a look.
If you have a dream, don't let that hold you back from what you want to do.
Kinsley Curley is a young cancer survivor and an old soul with big dreams and even bigger personality.
And you didn't invite me.
At the ripe old age of 8, she has things figured out.
I used to be like a little shy, but I feel like now I've opened my wings and now I'm brave and I'll do anything that is scary.
Fearless indeed, perhaps because of what happened as her life was just getting started.
Kinsley was 3 years old back in April of 2017, and she was getting a bath one night, and we discovered that her stomach was very large on one side. We took her into urgent care, took us to an ER and a hospital, and from there they diagnosed her with a Wilms tumor, which is a tumor on her kidney. It was really fast, and all of a sudden they're wheeling her back for surgery to remove that kidney and that tumor.
Then came 32 weeks of chemo, 8 rounds of radiation, and long hospital stays. Kinsley lost her hair, but never her infectious spirit.
We can do it, we can do it, we can, I'll do it, yeah.
She's using her voice to inspire as an ambassador for MD Anderson.
It's fun to raise money to help kids that were just like me. Go have fun with your dream. Nothing can ever hold you back from what you want to be.
Now, isn't that good news? Let's explore a little more about the power of helping hands. Here we go.
It's been an eye-opener for me.
For the president of the Val Verde Border Humanitarian Coalition, this was a first.
It looked like a third world country, maybe even a fourth world country if there is one.
Thousands of Haitian men, women, and children waiting for a chance at getting asylum, far from the political chaos and the earthquake devastation they left behind.
There's a lot of people that just need a welcome.
Even if it's in the form of pallets and pallets of water, juice, or Gatorade, as well as sandwiches made by faith-based volunteers for the Haitian arrivals, U.S. Border Patrol, and DPS troopers. These Del Rio pastors say for now they could use San Antonio's help. The Val Verde Border Humanitarian Coalition's website has where to donate monetary contributions and an Amazon wish list for food, drinks, baby food, diapers, and other items they could use, unless otherwise specified, what they don't need.
We don't have the space for clothing, so we're trying to avoid clothing at all costs.
Whatever political divide exists, they say compassion for others can go a long way in filling in the gap.
Whether we are on opposite sides of a political spectrum shouldn't determine the way that we respond to one another when someone is in need.
Now, isn't that good news? Both of these stories remind me of an inspirational quote that goes like this: great crises produce great men and great deeds of courage. Now let's step on over to the Comedy Corner. Here we go.
A lady was walking down the street to work, and she saw a parrot on a perch in front of a pet store. Well, the parrot said to her, "Hey, lady, you're real ugly." Well, the lady was furious. She stormed past the store and went to work. Well, on her way home, she saw the same parrot, and it said to her, "Hey, lady, you're really ugly." Well, she was incredibly ticked now. The next day, the same parrot said to her, "Hey, lady, you're really ugly." The lady was so ticked that she went into the store and said that she would sue the store and kill the bird. Well, the store manager replied, "Well, that's not good." He promised that the parrot wouldn't say it again. So when the lady walked past the store the day after, the parrot called out to her, "Hey, lady." Well, she paused and said, "Yes." Well, the bird said, "You know."
As we always say, the best way to turn a frown upside down is to get Google for good news. I'm your correspondent, Hassanio Lujimi, and I'll see you right here next time on That Saturday Show with more You Got It good news.
You know, that was hilarious.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. Thank you, Hassani. All right, we are going to a very important segment, and it's only going to take us about a minute, but we have with us today one of our interns, Jason Perez from Next Gen Academy. Jason's been with us almost for the entire year of That Saturday Show, and we're looking forward to having him and his fellow students back again next year. So we just wanted to take a little time to say thank you, Jason, and tell us what's your experience been like and what's up next.
Well, my experience here has been actually pretty great. I've been learning a lot of like how you've been hosting and talking to a lot of people and getting connections with everybody, and I'm wanting to keep coming back here actually for the next year.
Good. And we're looking forward to you coming back too. Interestingly enough, we recorded our first show on January 6th of this year. And guess what? That's also Jason's birthday. So we are sending out a message right now. The January 6th incident has got to move aside to leave plenty of room for Jason's birthday. Jason, thank you so very much.
No problem.
And happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you too.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Jim Harvey. Let's talk about racism from an LGBTQI perspective. I grew up in Chicago, very segregated city. And so by the time I joined the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee at age 15, I was very familiar with racism and had been confronting racism for a long time. Racism is an issue here in New Mexico as well. It's alive and well, and institutional and systemic racism is probably even a bigger challenge here. Yes, there are people here who want to be blatantly racist, and we know who they are. But there are people here who would rather just sustain the institutions of racism, our police department, our public schools, possibly even our university, just to name a few. So there are challenges in New Mexico when it comes to racism as well, but it's alive and well, and don't be fooled. Pride organizations can do a lot. When you see it, challenge it, shout it down, root it out of your organizations, re-educate people wherever you can, but call it out. It needs to be confronted, and the only way it's going to end is if we confront it and move it out. I have mixed feelings about police presence at Pride. Police, unfortunately, are a necessary evil. And we've got to figure out how we can institute realistic alternatives to policing wherever we can. At the same time, we need to have a strong security presence, particularly at Pride events, because there are lots of bigots around, religious bigots, cultural bigots, and they need to be separated from us, and we need to be protected from them. What does LGBTQI pride mean to me? It means building institutions. It means building a foundation. It means educating people about who we are. It means loving one another. It means building a future for ourselves, both collectively and individually. And we can only do that if we're responsible, safe, secure, committed, and supportive of one another. So the Albuquerque Center for Peace and Justice is really honored today because as we end this year and we begin 2022, we are very pleased to have with us a very special guest and a good friend, and that is the Executive Director of the Martin Luther King Jr. State Commission, Mr. Leonard Waite. Leonard, welcome to that Saturday show.
Thank you, Jim. It's a pleasure being here.
Good to have you here with us, too, I tell you. So we know that January kicks off with a lot of exciting activities, and it's been that way now for quite a few years.
Right.
And so I just wanted to just step back and let you just talk a little bit about what's going on.
Yeah.
And I'll pop in and ask questions from time to time, but I know you got a lot to share with us.
Well, we do, and I again, thank you for having me. I should say we are. My Associate Director, Beverly Jordan, we are excited about what's going on this year. With COVID-19, we were unable to do a lot of the projects that we normally do in the office, but I think this year is going to be an exceptional and exciting time for us. We're going to kick off our MLK Dream Weekend, and our theme this year is the beloved community. And one of the things, as far as the beloved community, Dr. King visualized injustice. And Dr. King often said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So we're excited about that. Our first event is going to be Friday, January 14th, starting at 6 o'clock at the American. We're going to be showing the American Promise film. I don't know if you're aware of that film, but it's an outstanding film. It's about two young men that were documented from the age 4 up until, I think, high school graduating, and in New York. So that's going to be at the APAC, the African American Performing Arts Center, and that's at 310 San Pedro Drive Northeast here in Albuquerque. Our next event is going to be Saturday, January 15th, which is going to be my event, which is the MLK March, which will start around 10 to 10:30 at the corner of University and Dr. King Boulevard. And we will march across down Martin Luther King Avenue and cross over the bridge and have an event at the plaza. I'm excited about that. Like I said, we haven't done it in a few years. Our last event that we had over 3,500 people.
That's right.
It's an exceptional. So
I remember going across that bridge. I said, "Have you got some oxygen?" But it's exhilarating.
The walk is really not that bad.
No, it's not.
It's when you get to the bridge.
That's
and
it.
You start going over the bridge, and that's what that tells you how old you are.
Because you start at the top, and it's all
Everything's
downhill, and then you get down to Broadway.
Yes.
And then you hit that bridge to go up, and
legs start cramping up, everything start happening. But it's exciting, once you get over that bridge and you look back and you see all the people that are coming across that are participated. We have every walk of life participating and doing the walk. Some people have done it since day one.
That's right.
So I'm excited about that part of it.
Yeah, there's something symbolic about that, though. you know, making that climb up and then being able to look back and see where you came from.
Yeah.
This is there's a metaphor in that.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
definitely is. And Sunday, MLK Sunday services, this is going to be statewide. We have numerous churches that are putting on performances, or not necessarily performances, but their services is going to be dedicated to Dr. King and Dr. King's birthday. You know, we have Carlsbad, Hobbs, Alamogordo, Las Cruces, Farmington, Gallup, and Grants, you know, and Roswell. So quite a few, and you can find all that information on our website, and I'll give you the website in a minute. But all the information on all the services that are going to be going on around the state will be on that website. And then Monday, we'll culminate with the MLK breakfast. As we know, that's been going on for quite a while with Grants Chapel as the host of the breakfast. And then we have the SCLC brunch, so with Dr. Becknell in Rio Rancho. So there's quite a few things going on during the next month and Dr. King's birthday.
I'm really excited about that. I'm so glad to see things are happening in so many different places too. You know, one of the things that I'm reminded of is that the commission is a statewide commission. And talk a little bit about how the commission came into
Well, the
existence.
commission started in 1970. Let me tell you a small story about that. There was a committee of Joe Padrell. I can't name them all. There was a few. But one of the persons that was on this committee was my father, Taylor Waite. And so he was on the committee. I have his little plaque in my office, and it shows that he was appointed to this commission. And one of the things, he got to see me become the executive director before he passed away.
That is
so it's like it's the office is true to my heart. You know what I'm saying? So I really appreciate that, and enjoy doing the work. We've done some good work there. A lot of controversy, you know, as you know, Dr. King is controversial.
Oh, yeah.
And the office has been controversial, but we've survived. We're doing good work. My associate, Beverly Jordan, has been a true asset to the office. She's got a lot of energy, and she brings that to work every day, you know. So I get to hear her sing, too. She's got a beautiful voice.
Oh, she does.
Yeah, so I get to hear her sing around the office, so it's great. So we're enjoying it. You know, I'm excited about it. I also want to plug our new program, too, if you don't mind.
Go right ahead.
We're starting a youth leadership program. We kicked that off 2 months ago in Las Cruces. And the youth leadership program is to teach young adults about community involvement and the 6 principles of Dr. King. You know, so we're excited about it. All the cities that I mentioned, Roswell, Las Cruces, Farmington, Hobbs, all of them now have a youth leadership program. And you can find out more information about that on our website, which is nmlksc.org. Again, it's nmlksc.org, okay? And you can get all the information from that.
Great. Well, we'll see if we can get it posted up, too.
Okay, great.
Okay, we'll see if we can do that. You know, I am so glad to hear that, though, that some stuff is happening statewide. Because, you know, when I first moved here about 10 years ago, I was working for the Red Cross, and we had chapters all around the state. So I got a chance to learn a lot about New Mexico and where black folks in particular live. you know, and there's a lot of us in Roswell and Hobbs and Las Cruces.
Yeah.
And there's a few of us up in Farmington too. And
Sure.
Gallup has a strong history of a black presence. So to know that things are happening in all those areas is just wonderful, and that they're responding to and becoming so intimately involved in you know, in honoring Dr. King is really a value.
And we do have a large black population, but one of the things I want to emphasize is that, you know, the MLK Commission is a diverse group. Multicultural. We don't discriminate or anything like that. We want everybody to be involved. And, you know, it's one of the things that I want to let everybody know is that, you know, it's a diverse group, you know. So when you see us out there, you're going to see everything. You're going to see every race, creed, or color out there participating in the things that we do. So I'm excited.
So unlike those who keep referring to New Mexico as a tricultural state, Martin Luther King Commission is actually setting the fine example as being the multicultural organization that's responding to multicultural issues.
Yes.
And my hat's off to you for that.
I appreciate that, and you're absolutely right. They always talk about the big three, but there's four of us in there.
There's four of us here.
Four of us there.
That's right.
Yeah, so.
You know, I'm so glad that that you're doing this. I really am. Right. You know, so what's your staff like?
My staff? We have a staff of two.
Two? Okay.
Highly exciting, you know. I love going to work every day. You know, like I said, I get to hear Beverly sing around the office. I can't sing a lick, so it's impressive. But we're doing with our funding. We have a low budget. You know, we're going to be asking for more money next year.
Good.
But with our budget, we're trying to do as much as we can. The big thing is involving the community in what we do. You know, and so that's our task, is to bring a community together and involve them in the Martin Luther King Commission. So.
Is there an education component?
There is with the youth leadership.
Good.
And that is to teach the 6 principles of Dr. King. It's also to teach them about Robert's Rules of Order, how to hold a meeting, what's expected during time, getting involved in your community, going to different meetings and understand what should happen, what could happen, and what will happen, and the process in running a good meeting. So the educational component is huge in the leadership program. So.
You know, we're at the Peace Justice Center. We're starting a new program next year called Beyond the March.
Oh yeah.
And we're excited about it because it just captures the whole idea of what do you do? Mm-hmm. You know, what are the next steps that have to happen after we've marched, after we've had a sit-in, after we've had protests? You know, because we know that policy change is the ultimate goal here. You change a system by changing the policies that undergird it. And so, I don't know, maybe at some point down the road, we could possibly find some way to work together.
Well, you know, that in itself is huge.
Yeah.
We all want to come together, and we're going to be fight, but what do we do next? What's the game plan? Most of the meetings that I go to, they don't have the game plan.
That's right.
Okay, we're going to come together, we're going to fight about this issue, but where do we go from here?
Exactly.
So I think that's going to be huge, and it's going to be great for young adults to learn to just take that next step.
Yeah.
Not because you're mad or upset at something, okay? What are you going to do about it? So
that planning that has to happen.
Exactly.
You know, we just had our first training on the legislative process last weekend. You know, how a bill becomes law. What are the steps that are taken to get, you know, legislators to sponsor your bill, you know, to carry it forward, and then what do you do in order to make things happen?
Yeah, that's how you influence change.
Yeah,
and they don't teach us that in the regular schools.
No.
You know,
No.
how to influence change.
Exactly.
You know? So that's important. I think that's a great idea.
So we're inviting you in. Okay, we'll be in touch
I'll
about
be there.
that.
Yeah,
Great. So The Martin Luther King Dream Weekend begins January
13th.
January 13th. And if you want more information, you can contact Leonard Waite or contact the fabulously vocal skills of Beverly Jordan.
Right.
You know, contact them and let's make this Dream Weekend like no other.
Jim, I think you're right. We're going to do that. That's our job this year, you know. So we're excited.
Thanks so much for being on That Saturday Show.
Thank you.
And we'll see you in January.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Yo, Gene, talk to your lady, buddy. I think this is the one.
In a sentimental mood, well, I could see the stars come through my room while your loving attitude is like a flame that lights the gloom on the wings of every kiss. Sounds of melody so strange and sweet in your sentimental ways. You make my paradise complete. Rose petals seem to fall. It's all like a dream to call you mine. My heart's a lighter thing since that night you made a thing divine. In a sentimental mood, now I'm within a world so heavenly, for I never dreamt you, babe, loving sentimental me. Rose petals seem to fall. It's all like a dream to call you mine. My heart's a lighter thing since that night you made a thing divine. In the sentimental mood. Now I'm within a world so heavenly, for I never dreamt you, baby, loving That's Heather. Thank you. I'm so happy.
Until the next time, it's time to say goodbye. When you out here in the streets, keep it real, 505. We love everybody, we just want to let you know. Thanks for tuning in to that Saturday show.